Okay, so I've just completed a 3-kilometer shakeout run. Feeling good, feeling nervous. I am 1 day out. Tomorrow is the big day that I'm going to be running my first ever marathon. Like I say, nervous but excited. Can't wait. All that's left now to do is to rest, recover and carb load. And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. So before I get started, I want to give you a brief overview of what carb loading is and why it's used. Carb loading is where you deliberately, yep, you guessed it, increase your carbohydrate intake. This is usually done before a big endurance event, usually longer than about 2 hours. This is because when we exercise, our body needs energy, which can be provided predominantly by carbohydrates and fats. A very, very small amount of protein in some cases. Carbohydrates in the form of glucose are a much more rapid energy supply. However, they are more limited. Luckily, our body is very smart and it has a backup supply of glucose in the form of glycogen. The average person stores about 600 grams of glycogen, and about 500 grams of this is in the muscle and about 100 grams of this is in the liver. Therefore, it's absolutely vital in these long endurance events that before the event you've done everything that you can and you've maximized your glycogen stores. This, combined with a good intra-run strategy, can help you from hitting the wall and feeling depleted. Studies show that a successful carbohydrate load can increase performance by about 2 to 3%. This is the equivalent of someone who ran a marathon in 3 hours, running it in 2 hours 55. A 5-minute increase in performance, all for just eating some food. Why wouldn't you do it? So what does a proper carb load look like? Well, it was first thought you had to complete some really high intense activity, completely deplete your glycogen stores, and then 3 days just fully maximize your glycogen storage by eating a high carb diet. But recent studies have just shown that a 1 day, so a 24-hour carb load the day before the race is more than enough to get the full benefits. And that way you can minimize weight gain from water and just eating generally too much food. So the 1 day protocol is what I'm going to be following, and to do this effectively I'm going to be aiming for 8 to 12 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight. So I'm going to go smack bang in the middle. I'm going to aim for 10 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight. I weigh about 60 kilograms, so that's going to be a nice 600 grams of carbs I'm going to be aiming for. Getting your carbs in early in the day is vital, and in that way you're making sure you're not going to bed stuffed from food, and it's going to interfere with your sleep. So for that reason, a big breakfast is the way to start. Immediately when I got back from my run, I had an English muffin with a banana and a sports drink, and now about an hour, 2 hours later, I'm having some eggs and some porridge oats as well. So plenty of carbs. I've only got 2 eggs just to minimize my fat and protein intake, but plenty of oats for the carbs. Yeah, gonna have this now. Another thing you can do when you're increasing your carbohydrate intake is to lower your protein and fat intake. Now this helps balance the books, so to say, and minimize the amount of calories you're actually eating that you don't need. So doing this will make you feel less stuffed and also minimize any weight gain that you get from eating excessive calories. Another important thing to do is to lower your fiber intake, as again, this induces satiety and can make you feel really full. So especially if you're having a lot of complex carbs, be mindful of that and the fiber that they have in them. So lower that, lower your protein and fat. You won't get a nutrient deficiency in 1 day, and neither will you lose all your muscle. If there's ever been a time to load up on your carbs and reduce your veggie intake, now's your excuse. So get it done, and yeah, that's my next tip. So I know I'm going to be out for most of the day today, so I've already prepped 2 of my meals with me. My first is some beetroot pasta, and my second one is some rice with potatoes and also a little bit of chicken. I plan to have my first meal at about 12 o'clock and then my second one at 3:30, so giving myself 3.5 hours to digest the first one, and then roughly about 3.5 hours again before I have my dinner, which is going to be a nice pizza, which I'm very looking forward to. Planning what your meals will be and when you're going to have them is really useful, just to make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time to digest the food and just minimize you feeling absolutely stuffed. Using a tracking app, something like MyFitnessPal, is what I've done, and that way the day before I tracked all my foods, everything I plan to eat, and make sure that I've hit my carbohydrate intake that I'm going for, which again is 600 grams. So everything that I'm planning to eat today will be on the screen now. Inputted that into MyFitnessPal, and so I've got the macros there. I know what I'm shooting for, I know when I'm going to have it, and that way you can be sure that you've got everything you need to hit your carbohydrate intake, and it just takes complete stress out of the day and worry about where I'm going to get any food and what I'm going to eat, and making sure you're hitting that when you've got your meals planned out and inputted into the app, you know for certain, and that's all taken care of, and you can just relax a little bit more on the day. Another thing is hydration. Whilst drinking water is obviously good, for us endurance athletes, you have to be careful that you're not drinking just too much of just plain water. If you're just having water on its own with no electrolytes, your body will just flush out your electrolytes. And like I say, if you're not replenishing these, then the effects are going to be muscle weakness. You're going to feel lightheaded maybe. And generally it can have a really big impact on performance, and a lot of people don't realise this, and I've been guilty of it as well. So to prevent this, I'm just going to be sticking a few electrolyte tabs in about 500 millilitres of water throughout the day, 1 tab per 500 millilitres. I'm going to do this a couple of times a day just to make sure that I'm getting enough sodium in and other electrolytes such as your potassium, magnesium and calcium. Alright, so it's been a fair few weeks after the marathon now, and I'm delighted to say that I smashed my goal of sub 3 and finished in 2 hours, 53 minutes and 34 seconds. So I was over the moon with that. I really think, as well as obviously all the training and preparation I put into it, my nutrition strategy on the day played such a big important role in how I did. I finished really strongly and I was overtaking people towards the end, and I just felt good. I felt strong, and I just had a kick, whereas other people that I was racing with and near, I saw that they weren't taking on gels and fluids as much as I was, and I think in the end that gave me the advantage and allowed me to kick and overtake them, and when I passed them they looked like they were suffering. So definitely make sure you have a good intra-race strategy as well as your pre-race strategy carb load. So just to summarize everything that I've covered in this video, so 1, aim for about 8 to 12 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight. Number 2 is to do this, lower your fiber, protein and fat intake to make it easier. Number 3 is make sure that you stay hydrated as well as eating plenty of food. Make sure you get plenty of fluids on, and also make sure that your electrolytes are topped up as well, not just water. Make sure you add a few electrolyte tabs in there as well. My 4th bit of advice is to plan it out. You've got your carbs that you need to hit, you've got your hydration that you need to stay on top of. Plan that out. Use something like MyFitnessPal, track it, log it, make sure that everything that you're going to consume hits those goals, and it just takes the stress out on the big day. And then my last thing that I want to leave you guys on is to practice it in training. Now, I made this mistake. I didn't. And so when I ate 600 grams of carbs that night, I was a bit stuffed. Felt a bit sick. Wasn't sick, but felt a bit sick. So luckily everything went all right in the end, and I woke up feeling good, ready, had my pre-race meal and felt really good, but you never know. So there we go. That is all my tips for how to successfully complete a carbohydrate load. Remember, this is only 1 to 2% of a performance improvement, and whilst that can be really, really good and have a major impact on your final time, the 98% is from your training that you put in, week out, your diet, your sleep, how well you're recovering. Those are the fundamentals. But hopefully, if you get this carbohydrate load right and utilize the tips that I've suggested, then you can find that 1 to 2% increase and absolutely smash it on race day. So all the best if you are training for an event. And I hope this has been really useful, and let me know what other nutritional or training related videos you'd like to see on the channel. So thank you.